The band, we appreciate you as well. Thank you, thank you. Oh, so we're talking about transformation. That's what we're talking about today. And, you know, when we think about transformation, we all say, yes, I want transformation. Yes, Lord, transform me. But don't make it hurt. But we know transformation, right? The most powerful transformation happens at the time of loss, struggling, grief, not only in humans, but also in nature. So we're going to look today at how the loss of self and struggle can transform something so plain, so mundane, into something stunning in nature. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm talking about the butterfly, right? It's one of the most beautiful insects that Mother Nature has created. Butterflies, for me, they're a gift from the universe because they always incite awe when I see them. I could be in the midst of something like really intense, and a butterfly goes by, and there's that moment of like, oh, you know, it's not that serious. It's a moment of joy. It's a moment of creation. And it brings to mind, you know, with those iridescent colors and flitting from flower to flower, just that flight of fantasy, you know, that we get to see something this magnificent just breathing and moving and having its way. So did you know that there are 4 cycles in the life of a caterpillar? Now, I know the little kids probably know that, right? Four cycles. You've got the egg, you've got the caterpillar, you've got the chrysalis, and then you've got the adult butterfly. So the eggs of the butterfly, they are laid on specific leaves because each type of butterfly likes a special kind of plant. So the adult lays it on that plant that it knows that once the caterpillar hatches out of the egg, it can just consume right there where it is. So there are these tiny, tiny little caterpillars that are hatched, and they just start eating and eating and eating until they get to maturity. And maturity is based on the size and the weight of the caterpillar. And then when it gets to that mature state, something goes click. I need to spin a cocoon around myself, right? And we call that the chrysalis. And it's amazing. The chrysalis then, what it does is it kind of forms this hard shell coating around the caterpillar. And the chrysalis breaks down all the tissues and organs of the caterpillar into what's known as imaginal cells. And those imaginal cells transform that caterpillar into a butterfly. Now, not all of the tissues are destroyed. Some of the old tissues become the insect's new body, but these imaginal cells, which were dormant cells in the caterpillar, start to develop the new structure of the beautiful butterfly. Initially, each of the imaginal cells operates as a single-cell organism, entirely independent of one another, but then they multiply, and they connect with one another, forming clusters, and they start to resonate in the same frequency, speaking the same language, back and forth to each other, until there's a tipping point. And at that tipping point, they no longer work as single. They now become a multi-cell organism known as the butterfly. And this chrysalis stage, it can last anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, depending on the type of butterfly that it is. And then as the butterfly gets ready to emerge out of the cocoon, there's a hormone that gets activated, and it softens the chrysalis and triggers the butterfly to start to awaken. And I love this picture that I'm showing you because it has like the 3 stages, which is, you know, it's the initial one is that green color, and then you can start to see the wings in that second picture there as it starts to emerge, and then you can see it just opens up and becomes this beautiful entity. And here's the thing. As the butterfly is struggling to get out of that membrane, out of that chrysalis, there is an intense struggle that goes on. And when they finally get out, they have to just kind of hang there. As you can see, that butterfly is hanging upside down for their wings to expand, to dry, and to harden before that they can take their first flight. And that process can last anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. Now, I think this process of becoming a butterfly is really a primer for transformation in humanity. Think of the adult butterfly, of course, as the human, and the eggs as all of those ideas that we have, all of those paths that we can take. Now, the adult female butterfly lays 100 to 300 eggs, 100 to 300 eggs. And a few of those become caterpillars. And an even fewer of those become butterflies because there's an attrition rate based on birds and other animals, right? And we have hundreds of ideas, hundreds of ways that we can create, hundreds of paths that we can take, and yet there is a rate of attrition as well for us, right? Based on timing, based on our beliefs, based on resources. So I want you to notice this. The caterpillar doesn't know what its true purpose is until it goes through the metamorphosis within the chrysalis. Notice also the caterpillar goes through a complete breakdown of what it was. And also notice, the imaginal cells knew all along what its true nature was, to become the beautiful butterfly. And just like that caterpillar, we have our own imaginal cells. Did you know that? We have our own imaginal cells. And they are known as the imago Dei, which is the image of God. The imago Dei, the image of God. Have you ever watched a butterfly come out from the chrysalis? If you have, you can imagine and see that huge struggle that's going on. And you may have heard stories of people who are just moved like by compassion of seeing this struggle and wanting to help this poor butterfly make it easy to get out of the cocoon. But what do we know? Once that cocoon is assisted by us very clever, not so much humans, right? They're not able to fly. They're not able to fly because that struggle is vital for their well-being, vital for them to soar. Now, you may say, well, that's the butterfly. That has nothing to do with us. But I say to you, what if the butterfly life cycle is very similar to our own? We are born, we grow, we eat a lot and we grow. We learn about the world around us. We learn all about the rules, all the beliefs. And then we die to what we thought we were. We die to what other people told us we were, to become reborn in greatness. Andrew Harvey is this amazing mystic, teacher, activist, religious scholar. I got to meet him when I was in seminary. In seminary, what they did is they had these lyceum events, which they would invite religious scholars to come in and host these workshops and scholarly discussions with the students. And we were all aflutter. And Andrew Harvey was one of them, and he's has this very lovely British accent, you know, and he's soft-spoken, and it was just, oh, wow, this guy's really cool. And he got up on stage, and it was like, boom, you know? And I was like, we were all like shocked because we met him before he started talking, you know? But he's really passionate about activism. And he has a book, he's got several books, but in the book that I'm referencing, it's The Hope, A Guide to Sacred Activism. He writes about Father Bede Griffith, who is also a mystic and teacher. And he has this profound conversation with Father Bede. And Bede says this to him: "What I've come to believe is that the very depth and extent of our crisis is calling forth an unprecedented force of transformation and healing. That if we can align ourselves with it, can not only help humanity survive, but also transfigure it. Transfigure it. Now, I love the word transfigure because it means to transform into something more beautiful and elevated. What if we are in the process of breaking down that which no longer serves us? Dying to the old, releasing the paradigms of labels and hatred. And in doing so, we are allowing those imaginal cells to do its job of transfiguration. That's a powerful concept, isn't it? This would mean awakening to the Imago Dei, realizing that the image of God is the kingdom of heaven within us. The kingdom of heaven within us. The spark of the divine within us are the imaginal cells. And guess what? It knows our true nature and our true purpose. What would it be like to die to those labels and beliefs we've taken on as the definition of who we are, but now keep us in bondage, keep us in the caterpillar state, as opposed to being something more powerful than we've ever known? And you know what? The label could be something as innocuous as being perfect, that we have to be perfect to be of God. Now, we may have been beaten over the head by scriptures that tell us that's what we're supposed to be, like this one here in the New Testament, Matthew 5:48, that says, "You must therefore be perfect, just as your heavenly Father is perfect." You know, this verse comes when Jesus is doing his Sermon on the Mount, where he's talking about the Beatitudes and how we need to live to be the Christ in the world. And for many of us, as we interpret this verse, we think, oh, that means that there can be no shadows. There can be no imperfections. No mistakes could be made. And certainly no compassion for those we judge falling short of God's laws. Sounds familiar? And the sad part is, we do it to ourselves more than anyone else. But here's the thing, my friends. John A. Sanford wrote a book called The Kingdom Within, and I've referenced it a few times. I think it's a really powerful take of reinterpreting from a Greek scholar, a religious scholar, Jesus' words. And he writes that the Greek translation of the word that we defined as perfect literally means brought to an end state. It is not a matter of achieving some impossible and inhuman saint-like condition, but of being fulfilled as the person we were created to be. Ooh. It is the paradoxical wholeness which is the goal of the kingdom of God. You see, the kingdom of God, which we know is in the absolute realm, knows that the kingdom of heaven, which is in the relative realm, because here we are on earth and this is the relative realm, it knows the kingdom of heaven is the imaginal selves within us. And my friends, this time that we're in right now is about honoring the deconstruction that is required for us to soar into greatness. So how does that translate into our lives? Nice theory. Well, it translates like this. When there is loss, we don't run away from it. We know it's part of the human condition. We know that it's here for us. When our lives are turned upside down by a pandemic, a betrayal, an illness, financial loss, we don't hide from the world in shame. We know it's a lesson. There's something in that for me. And when we've lost a loved one, we don't avoid the pain. We don't shut ourselves off from the world and say, I can never love again because I can't feel that. We embrace this, all of this, as a moment in the chrysalis, in the cocoon that is going to strengthen us and allow us to break free and become something incredible. and we push forth from the chrysalis, knowing that the struggle will allow us to be powerful, to take off and soar with renewed vigor. Perhaps through the pain and struggle, we discern new inspirations, new paths, new ideas, new gifts, new abilities to make our lives juicier than before and to change the world. And the more that we do this work, the more we will attract others who recognize that they too are needed to create a transformative humanity. And just like the imaginal cell started off as a single cell entity, but then multiplied, right? We too are multiplying to create anew something that's wondrous. And we're creating a field of resonance. You know, I still love Paul Selig, even though he didn't come to visit us. I'm just saying. In the book of Love and Creation, the teachers say this: by stating I am worth through that I see before me, you bring into manifestation that which resides in the same frequency that you are resonating at. And the word is God in action, is a high frequency. We can see in our society that we are in the process of transformation. Let's just take one small example that has happened recently because of the pandemic. People want a work-life balance, don't they? They've come to know that their families and their pets are precious treasures. And they've come to realize that they can support Mother Earth by working from home as opposed to using the car, traveling back and forth, burning gasoline. They've come to understand that they really need a lot less than they thought they did. And now there's a ripple effect, right? It's happening as there's a huge demand to change the work culture, not just in the US, but across the globe. And in this one single shift in awakening, there is a call for putting one's well-being above what was the previous toxic work culture. One shift. And it's exploding as many of us step into resonance with this new frequency. This frequency of prosperity that says, yes, I can have a juicy life. Yes, I don't want to work 90 hours a week. Yes. And the realization that a fulfilling life is so much more than work or money made. And as we resonate at that new frequency, transfiguration occurs. We can also see here in our spiritual community at Unity Church of the Hills that together we are in the process of hearing the imaginal selves, the kingdom within us, driving us to wholeness. We are starting to awaken from the chrysalis. We are pushing away from the old labels that limited us and kept us unknowingly bound in fear. We are being called to transform into our truth, which is we are divine humans filled with spiritual gifts and unlimited power, able to perform miracles, be the outpicturing of God, be the frequency of love, and create a world in which everyone thrives. Everyone. And if you're still unsure that you are in the midst of a powerful transformation, well, first of all, you wouldn't be here because I know you know. But if there is any blocks that you need to release, this is the time to do it. Because all creation comes from being the frequency of love, and we cannot love until what? We love ourselves first. Until we love ourselves first. So inviting you to tune into the source of love that flows from God and runs through each and every person. You may have forgotten the truth. You are love. That's all that's required of you, to be love. So if you're willing to release, there's an attunement given to us by the ascended teachers. I'll read it, and if you want to join in with me, you're more than welcome to. I am now choosing to realize that within me there is a wellspring of love, There is a wellspring of love that I am able to access and call to me and drink from. And as I become aware of this, my consciousness, my belief in my own lovability is exchanged for a deep knowing that I am in the well of love. I am word through this intention, word, I am word. So this week, 5 minutes each day. 5 minutes isn't a lot to ask for. 5 minutes isn't a lot to ensure that you are walking in the frequency of love. 5 minutes a day to attune your vibration as love in skin. That's what you're here to be, and claim that truth. Knowing that if you truly know that you are loved, then whatever the circumstances are in life, whether they're joy or sorrow, you have the power to create anew. And you're creating from this place of love. So imagine you're living life. You lose a job. A divorce happens. You get a new job, and golly, it's not what I thought it was going to be. And still knowing you're lovable. You can allow yourself to feel all the feelings associated with this change. Feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, fear, and knowing still you are lovable. Knowing that this is your time in the chrysalis as the kingdom within you creates a new reality that supports you in transfiguring into your highest self, soaring on wings, finally saying yes to what you are here to do, who you have come here to be. So if you're ready, release your butterflies and let them soar.